Hello, Dave Hill here. Thanks for tuning in. We've got a lot of ground to cover in our lesson today, and I hope you've been reviewing because we've shown a lot of stuff in the last few lessons. And I want to spend today's lesson, in fact, going over what we've covered for the last couple lessons because it's been a lot of stuff. I think it's important to review. So we're going to put it together and combine the last two lessons with Triad Arpeggios, and we're actually going to introduce a new concept and a new technique today to make those arpeggios give you a little bit more technique and facility with them, okay? So we're going to talk about sweeping in today's lesson as well as reviewing the triads major and minor. So let's get down to work, and I hope you have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, so here we are. Let's get down to business right away and see what we've already covered and learned, okay? So the last lesson I talked about minor triad arpeggios, okay? Now we preceded those with major triad arpeggios, and as you remember, I always try to touch on the things we've learned and go back and review and make sure that you're remembering everything, okay? So those are the shapes that we covered last lesson, okay? I only gave you 3 shapes right now, but that's good enough for now because we can make a lot of music with those 3 shapes, especially when we combine them with the major shapes we've also learned. But let's just review the minor ones now just to make sure you're up to speed here. So the minor shapes are based primarily off the chord forms that you would play in one position, okay? So if you take a look at the 3 chords that we could play these minor shapes in if we were going to play progression, they fit precisely over those chord forms, okay? So in this case, because it's a triad arpeggio, we're going to play every note as we ascend up the fingerboard, and a chord voice would give you a playable voicing for a chord, and that's a little bit different. So here's the way the minor triad looks again. Okay, one more time. Okay, now let's go over the next form. This is the pattern 2 minor triad shape. Let's make sure we can cover this one. Now, a lot of people, you might try this as a variation of a technique, is to do a bar right here. Right? And that's barring with your 3rd finger on the 7th fret. Now, I personally prefer to finger the notes individually, but you can also incorporate the bar. Now, the only problem with the bar that you got to be aware of is you've got to make sure that you don't do this and then slightly hit the 3rd before you hit the minor 3rd, because it's a minor triad, and it's easy to get into the major 3rd by mistake. So watch that. Okay, so that's why I use 2 fingers to get that. Okay, finally in pattern 1, if I were going to stay in this position and I wanted to play an E chord, for example, I would do this one. Right, so we've got the E minor shape is right off of this pattern. Okay? So the reason I'm playing them all in the same key, in this case A minor, is because we had a progression from the previous lesson. And I still have that progression handy. And it's right here. Okay? So that's what I gave you guys for homework to practice, and I want to make sure that you've been working on that. So let's just cover that together and see how you're doing. Let me see if my loop station is ready to go here. Yes, seems like it's ready to go. Okay, so let's do it like this. If that's where we're at, we're going to be playing, let's say, 8th notes. So okay, so that's going to basically sound like that before we'll get up and down each arpeggio basically twice, and then we move to the next one. Okay, so let's try it. Here we go. Let's see how you're doing. I'm listening very carefully. 1, 2, 3, 4. back to the beginning. Okay, so now if that's too fast right now and you're not able to keep up, that doesn't mean you're not doing well. It just means that your technique has to get more solid on those triad arpeggios. So you would still want to practice this progression. You just want to find a tempo that's comfortable for you so you can practice it and evenly and slowly but accurately. Okay? So that might mean it's literally this slow. And that's okay. That's no problem. It just means that's where you're at. On another day, you might be 10 beats a minute faster, but that's fine. Okay. So let's take a look at something behind me on the board now, because you might realize or might have seen me playing the arpeggio, and if you observe my right hand, you might see that I don't necessarily alternate pick every note. I'm not necessarily going, right? Sometimes you see me utilize a consecutive downstroke or a consecutive upstroke, okay? And what I'm simply doing is maximizing the efficiency of my right hand by utilizing a sweep, okay? Now, a sweeping technique is nothing more than a consecutive directional pick, okay? So if I can play an arpeggio and I'm literally going from the 6th string to the 5th string to the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st, I'm literally just playing one note per string, it makes sense to utilize a sweep stroke or economy pick. Right? All in one stroke, right? Rather than going down and then going around the string and coming back up, and then going down and then coming around the string and coming back up. That actually slows me down a little bit. Okay, so I'm utilizing what's called sweeping technique. And I've shown you right here on the board what I'm doing. Okay? So there's the pattern for A minor triad arpeggio. Right? I've tabbed it out here for you. But what I'm showing you right here is the picking direction. Okay? Just so I can be clear here, this equals an up pick, and this equals a down pick.